Hey everybody, welcome to the Tech Founder Show, where we talk to founders who are doing amazing work that are driving innovations and really changing the way that we live and work. And so this week I'm excited. Our co-host Andy is not here today. He's actually playing with buffalo and bison out in Yellowstone this week. So I hope he's enjoying his time off with his family. So it'll just be me, but we have an exciting guest. We have Kylee Guenther. She's the founder and CEO of Pivot Materials. Pivot Materials is a woman-owned business, Michigan-based social impact business that's reforming the plastics industry. And the name Pivot comes from their goal to change or pivot the plastics industry. So a pretty big undertaking. With that, I will bring Kylee on. Kylee, how are you doing?
Hi, living the quarantine dream. How about you?
Yeah, same here. Same here. Well, thank you for joining us. Super excited to hear what you have going on. I would love if you could just tell a little bit about Pivot and just tell us, what you guys are doing, what the organization is all about.
Yeah, great. So even before we get to Pivot, I think my co-founder Raju and I's life stories kind of define what our business is and why we got here. So
Cool.
we're actually both following in our father's career footsteps.
Mm,
So my dad worked in the plastics industry his whole life, and he was actually on the founding team to create the first plastic bottles with handles in them. So those milk jugs we all use,
yeah.
those gallon milk jugs, those are daddy's. So I was always going to work with my dad. My parents were really hands on with my brother Dusty and I. So we learned about plastics from the bottom up, just growing up on the shop floor. And I was always amazed at all the things daddy could do. But like my dad made those little lemon bottles that have lemon juice in them that you get at the deli for like a
Yeah,
dollar. That's also his development. Some
that's very cool.
pretty cool stuff. So we saw all this stuff and we're just mesmerized. But even as a kid, I was just mortified by the amount of plastic waste that was created. So my co-founder Raju, his dad is like the umpteenth generation rice farmer in rural India.
Mm,
So he grew up on the farm learning about agriculture and all the waste that's actually created from agricultural production. And a lot of that waste, the leftover plant waste, is burned at the end of the season, which causes tons of air pollution. So him and I actually met in a grocery store parking lot and paired up our ideas and founded a company thinking that we could take plastic or bioresins and combine them with plant waste and then make material that could be an alternative to traditional plastics. And we did it.
that is awesome. So, where did the idea for that? So that's really cool that you grew up kind of in the, learning about the plastics industry and all the things that your dad was doing, and your co-founder kind of similar. Um, where did you come up with where did you formulate the idea?
Hmm. I don't even know how that even exactly came to be, but one day we were just like, I wonder if we could mix these two things together, what would happen? And it didn't blow up in our face. So
Wow. So,
yeah.
what is your background prior to Pivot Materials? What were you working on, and what did the career look like? I'd be curious to hear what your kind of skill set and background is.
So I'm a product of the recession. I was a university fellow studying management and graduated at the height of the economic recession from my second master's program. So I took any job I could that prevented me from living in my parents' basement. And I actually became an enforcement officer at a court. So that was my first like real grown-up job.
Yeah,
Nothing to do with what I ever wanted to do in life, which since I was a kid I wanted to be president. So court officer is really different.
that's
But
fun.
it actually really prepared me for business in a lot of ways because I worked with a lot of difficult people in a lot of difficult situations. And it really taught me to be tough and be strong, which has also paid off over this past year. So I don't really I don't really think it was a bad thing. It was just very different than what I had expected to do. And
Yeah.
then my co-founder is a mechanical engineer, and my dad's also an engineer who has been able to help us with this project. So we used my management skills and my co-founder's engineering skills, and it worked out pretty well.
Cool. So that's kind of the pairing. We talk to a lot of founders who are co-founders, and typically the ones that have the best dynamic is when they really have those complementary skill sets. So you brought kind of the management side, and your co-founder brought the engineering side. So that sounds great. In your LinkedIn profile, it lists storyteller in your headline. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So actually, when I started this business, one of us knew that we had to become the storyteller. Both of us were incredibly shy, and one of my greatest fears in life was people. So I knew if this business was going to succeed, and I was the one who wasn't doing the engineering, I had to really suck it up and learn how to communicate. So I decided I was going to rip the Band-Aid off, and I tried to book a speaking event, but I was so bad and so awkward that nobody would even hire me. So I made it my New Year's resolution to just get over my fear of people. And I kept auditioning for speaking events. And finally, I booked one. And wouldn't you know, it was at the stadium in Detroit where the Detroit football ones. I don't follow sports, so I don't
Lion?
know. Yeah, maybe, yeah. We'll go
Yeah.
with Lions.
Okay.
They played there, so it was this big venue, and I
Wow.
booked a speaking event there, and I have never been more sweaty in my life to get up on stage. I was so nervous and just terrified, and I was afraid I was going to pull a Kelsey Grammer and just walk off the stage or something, but I didn't. And after maybe a minute on stage, it was borderline okay. And by the end of my talk, I was like, this isn't too bad. So since then, I've really honed in my skill and actually became an international keynote speaker. So something I hated, and for me was the absolute worst part of being a business owner, is now one of my absolute favorites. And I have my own website for speaking, KylieGuenther.com. And I do a lot of different things. And I've really honed in on storytelling because as a startup founder, that's what people are interested in. They want to hear the story behind your brand and how you came to be.
That is pretty awesome. I love hearing that story. I once took a job early in my career, my early 20s, as a seminar instructor. Because of that reason, I always heard you take a job for the experience that you gain. And I thought, what more powerful than if I became really good and really effective at speaking? So, I get it. And that's amazing to hear that story that you went from, having the fear, being on the big stage, and then now that being a part of what you do is being a keynote speaker. So pretty awesome.
And it's so empowering. Like I was always so nervous. Oh my God, I'm going to have to go to this meeting. I'm going to have to talk to somebody. Like the first time I ever went to a business meeting, for some reason I'm more shy in business than I was in my work life. But like I was so nervous. After the meeting got over, I had to go to Kroger and dry my shirt out in the dryer in the bathroom because I was just like, I was so sweaty and so nervous from having to talk to people in that meeting.
So would you say you're an introvert?
No, I'm an extrovert, but
You're not an extrovert. Okay.
yeah.
I'm just curious about that. Yeah, that's interesting. So you are extroverted, but that's been a challenge for you, and now it's been an area that you've grown significantly. So pretty cool. So as a storyteller, and I assume that that's how it would play into the role. That's why I mentioned that. Mm-hmm. How has that helped being able to articulate the vision you have for Pivot Materials and getting buy-in from people both externally, internally, potential investors perhaps? What has that done for you?
Oh, it was incredible before COVID hit. Pivot is a B2B business, and you won't find most of our customers using Instagram or other social media formats. They connect with each other in person.
Yeah.
Our average customer is a little bit older, definitely someone in a management position, someone who's technical. So they are really not online looking to connect with people. So I would go do constantly be doing speaking events at conferences, and I share our story about who we are and what we're doing and our plan for complete world domination. And people really loved that. Like, they loved hearing that we didn't start this business with a plan of making money. Really, our plan was to make a difference.
Yeah.
And through making that difference, that's how the business grows and makes money. And sometimes I do events and people stand for 45 minutes to talk to me after my talk. And I feel terrible about that, that they're waiting that long. But like, it's just how involved our story is and how important it is to so many people. So that was like huge for us before COVID hit, to be out there on the road sharing that story.
Yeah, that's cool. I would like to go back just to hear, you met your co-founder, ran into each other at the grocery store, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did the conversation start? How did you discover that you guys had, an area of interest in common? And then where did that turn into actual business idea?
So we had some mutual friends, interestingly. So that kind of helped move things along. And I love strangers. Like mom always says, don't talk to strangers. And I talk to all strangers everywhere, to the point where I'm usually the person in the elevator that scares people, I think.
That's fine.
So like, I just love talking to people, and we started talking about that and our similar interests, and then it just kind of budded from there.
So when did you start talking about the business idea?
Probably pretty early on. He was pretty obvious that he wanted to start a business and do something, and we tried some other things first that kind of didn't work out, because as a startup founder, your first startup almost never works. Your first startup is usually your precursor to something that kind of works, and then by the third or fourth startup, you'll actually have a startup.
Yeah.
So we started this carpooling website together first, which like Uber kind of moved in on that. That was kind of what it was, kind of similar. But we just kept trying, because that's all you can do is try. You're never going to really be that successful on the first time. I think Mark Zuckerberg kind of set the standards insanely high. Actually, I think he had another startup beforehand too. But yeah, so just trying and just moving along with things. And this, I think, ended up working because it was something we were both incredibly passionate about, and we had spent our whole lives working in.
Yeah, that's very cool. When did, or I'll ask first, so the other startup that you had, what were some of the lessons that you learned going through that helped you with Pivot?
Well, they were so different. So one was like a software platform, and the other one was, Pivot, which is, a B2B hardware type startup. So they didn't really have very many similarities. But definitely I learned early on that it's going to take you 20 times longer to get to where you want it to be and cost 10 times more than you ever thought possible. So word to the wise.
Yeah. What played into, so with the idea for Pivot Materials, was there anything related to, so that's an area of passion for you both. Was there anything as far as timing went that it was the right time for you to start and launch that business?
We're a little ahead of the curve here time wise. So I think that positions us well in the future. So we were one of the first sustainable materials startups. And we're also the only one who uses natural fibers that haven't been treated with harsh chemicals or other substances to keep them as natural as possible. So I think timing sometimes is what you make of it. Like, you can make it your time, and that's kind of what we've been pushing. So in the last couple of years, the plastics crisis has really grown, and that's immensely helpful to us. And I think people are realizing through COVID how interconnected everybody in the world is, like how everything you do or I do affects people on the other side of the planet. So I think that is going to push timing for our product as well. So we'll see here, but I think it's definitely the right time.
Yeah. So as far as the plastics industry, what does that look like right now and the need for sustainable solutions. Like, what's being done in the industry right now? Obviously, you're there at the forefront, but is this a time of like significant change for them? I would imagine that it is, but
Yes,
here.
and that's why our company's name is Pivot, because we're all about change and disrupting the industry. And there are other small players out there as well. So we're thankful that there are other companies working in the same or similar space. And the big multinational plastics manufacturers, they're some of the largest businesses in the world, and they're ingrained, if you think about it, in everything we do. Like, as soon as you woke up this morning, you probably put on glasses that had plastic in them, or slipped your feet into slippers with plastic, or you were already sleeping on sheets with plastic in them that you didn't even realize. So it's just everywhere in every single thing we touch. So that's really the thing that people are thinking about, especially us who are millennials and younger. We're really driven by different wants and different needs, and the plastics industry is starting to see this, and they are incorporating some materials similar to what we're doing in their product lineup, but there's still a long way to go.
So what are some of the innovations that are currently driving that change in the plastics industry?
More than innovation, I think first and foremost, it was the desire and the realization of the plastics crisis. So now that people have realized what's happening, that video of a turtle with a straw up its nose was horrible and graphic, but that really drove the plastics industry, or people in the plastics industry to realize there has to be change. And people recognizing the threats of climate change has also immensely pushed forward the agenda to make real change.
So how do you go and make change in an industry that's so massive, that's, I'm imagining, done things the same way for quite some time? What is that like? I imagine that's a pretty steep, battle you're fighting.
It is a steep battle. And actually, the first time I ever pitched my business, it was one of the worst, most challenging days of my life, because one of the pitch competition judges told me to sit down and be quiet because what I was taking on was too big, and there was no way I was ever going to be able to make it happen or make a difference. And he's told me my product couldn't even exist. And I'm like, hello, I'm holding something we made. So like I've been up against that really since the beginning. And in our industry space, material sciences, most people in the field are also older and male. So when I walk into a meeting and I'm the only 20-some-year-old woman in the room, and I'm telling them how to change things that they've been doing for 30 or 40 years, sometimes that doesn't go over well. But now we've really been focusing on storytelling and sharing everything that our brand does, and that has made the huge impact. Like one day I was just sitting here working on something on my computer, and I answered an unknown caller, and it was the manufacturing engineering manager for the largest yogurt producer in the world.
Wow.
So
these brands
are reaching out to us, and as a founder at this stage, I'm really proud to share that 4 of our initial customers are Fortune 100 companies.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Congratulations. Just ask, one more question on the topic of the industry. What other disruptions do you see coming? Obviously, with all the change that's needed and the direction that things are going, is there anything that you specifically have your eye on?
Outside of plastics, or?
Just that would impact the plastics industry and what you're doing.
Well, I think there's going to be huge changes to the logistics industry. There has to be. Logistics was a mess before COVID hit, and now it's become a disaster. So I'm hoping that people recognize the supply chain and logistics issues, and someone who's not me, because I hate that. Now that I'm good with public speaking, logistics is my least favorite thing.
Yeah.
But I hope someone else can disrupt this industry and fix the logistics supply chain, because sometimes I think it would be easier to hire dolphins to drag my cargo containers across the ocean than go through some of these logistics supply chains.
That's a great point. Is, the pandemic has highlighted some challenges that we have, and I think allowed us to see inner workings of certain industries, and that's a huge one. So supply chain, those challenges became really evident, and kind of where we were
Really fast.
sourcing and getting things from. And I think that was a real eye opener for a lot of people. So yeah, that's fantastic. Fantastic point that you're making there. You mentioned, that you were told while you were pitching that your product is something that couldn't be done, and you had it in your hand. Do you have some products that you can show?
Yeah. So
Awesome.
So here is a wine glass made out of our material. And
So
actually, one of my pandemic products or projects is launching my own home and housewares line called Loopy Products, which is launching this week. And this wine glass will be one of my first products. And this is something I am exceptionally proud of. This is a coffee mug made with the waste of coffee manufacturing.
that's interesting. I saw that at the website that's an area of focus, and I didn't even realize that the coffee manufacturing industry, there was so much waste involved, and
Oh
that's a
my God.
challenge. I'd love to hear if you want to share with our viewers. That would be interesting.
Yeah, so coffee grows on a fruit, but all we want is a little tiny bean inside to make a cup of coffee. So there's tons of waste, 30 to 50% by volume, and there's really no use for it after the coffee is harvested. So we're able to take that material, which is called a hull, and process it to get the fibers out, and then compound it with either traditional plastics or bioresins to make these little tiny pellets that look like bunny food, if you've ever had a pet bunny. And that's our actual product. That's what we sell at Pivot. But we can sell those little pellets to manufacturers who can make products like this that are out of the leftover waste. So you can actually drink your coffee out of a mug made with coffee waste.
That's pretty great, pretty cool. And so, what is the line that you're launching?
It's called Loopy Products because I love a good double entendre. So it's loopy because it's complete product use, it's complete use of the material.
Yeah.
And it's also loopy because I'm crazy about sustainability. So you can find us. Oops, I keep knocking this stupid desk. Sorry, everybody who gets motion sickness. You can find us at loopyproducts.com or on Instagram at Loopy Products. And we're launching this week. So it's a really, really huge week for me.
Yeah, that's exciting. Wow, I bet that's you probably have a full week planned, I'm sure, with that launch going on.
I am sure by the end of the week there'll be a little something stiffer than iced tea in my cup.
Yeah. I would love to hear a little bit about just some of the people that you've leaned on through your entrepreneurial journey. And obviously, you have your co-founder, but who are the people that have helped you, and really the people you've turned to the most, as you've gone through the process? Whether that's mentors or support group or masterminds, or would love to hear.
So I have a really incredible team of mentors. I've had people that have supported me since my business was just an idea and I had no clue what it was going to be yet. Spencer and Tom, they've been amazing. And now we just meet for coffee sometimes and we're like, hey, remember when I couldn't even do this? But so that was great. And actually, one of my mentors, and this is the best part about being in business, you meet the craziest, coolest people ever. One of my mentors was one of the first guys to work on the Mars rover project.
Wow.
So when you are a nerdy girl like me, working with him is like working with Justin Bieber. So it's so much fun. All these people you meet, my co-founder, we were out in Silicon Valley doing something out there, and he met one of the top guys at IBM and went for sushi and beer. Just these cool kinds of once in a lifetime people meeting opportunities. So we have a lot of that. And then some of these people become our mentors, and we have the most incredible group of mentors, and they check on us a lot just to make sure we're okay. Because, founding and growing this business is serious, very hard work. And we depend on them a lot. And one thing I also did that was really important is early on, I was really struggling because all my friends were getting married and having babies and kind of living your normal life. And I was like jet setting off to Silicon Valley and learning how to talk in front of people and like pitching my business. And like we just started to not have that much in common anymore. And it was really, really challenging because I needed somebody who really understood what I was doing. And like sometimes they tried, but it didn't work so well anymore. So I made friends with people who are also business owners, and those are the people that I lean on now too, and we lean on each other and support each other. Because like when my friends are out, my old friends are out, at the bar on Friday night, they don't understand why I'm sitting at home and working on Excel sheets.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of support group. So anybody who's founding a business, definitely make sure you make friends who are starting businesses.
So where did you find those people, and like the mentors that you have? Did you seek them out, or was that just kind of chance encounters, or what did that look like?
The mentors mostly came from accelerators. So I tried to join every accelerator and different type of group here in Michigan, and they mostly came out of there. The friends, some of them came out of there. One of the guys, I met him and I are always together in pitch competitions. So we met through that. And I also started a meetup group called Social Engineers, which is now defunct because of the pandemic. But I had some like women who were engineers here in the Metro Detroit area. They joined it, and then we became like best friends. So it's been really, really cool and interesting in that way.
So what is the entrepreneurial community like in the Detroit area? I know that there are some, accelerators there, but is that a community that you've gotten real involved with?
Yeah, I mean, they're like second family now. The Michigan entrepreneurial ecosystem has really grown a lot since I started. There's all kinds of new stuff. Like there's the Centropolis Accelerator LTU, which is now just for hardware startups, which is what we do. And it's the first of their kind around here. And then there's the Small Business Development Center, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. They're trying really hard to make it really cohesive and robust.
It's great. So your business, did you raise funding, or you bootstrap, or what's the process?
I'm really proud to share that we're fully self-funded.
Wow.
Yes, and there's a lot of reasons for that. First and foremost, I didn't want to take on anybody's money until we had a product in the market that was growing. And secondly, venture capital for women-owned companies, as you might know, is not that friendly. Only 2.3% of all funding that's raised for venture capital goes to women-led companies.
Wow, that's crazy number. I was going to actually ask you a bit about that, just challenges as a female founder and entrepreneur. What have you faced? What are some of the challenges you've encountered, and how have you addressed the situations?
It's been really challenging. Honestly, it's been really disappointing. So 2019 was the record year for funds going to women-led startups, and it was 2.8%. And last year it was down to 2.3%, even though women own 40% or more of all businesses in the United States. And I made a decision early on that this was probably going to be the case. I probably wasn't going to get funding or as friendly of funding as a lot of my friends who were male, and especially white male founders. And I was just going to have to do this myself if I really wanted to make it happen. So I'm pretty good with finance, and I've just made things work on my own. And a lot of my friends who are female are experiencing the same struggles. So, I think we have to talk about it. I don't think everybody knows about it. I don't think people even realize sometimes the things they say or do that are different to women founded companies. So, for example, I was in a pitch competition and there were 6 finalists, 5 males, and then myself. And the one of the judges kept like all the judges got to ask like one question, and they asked all the men like a very similar question, and it was like, oh, about how you're doing great and how your company is going to grow. And my question was more of like, oh, it seems like your company is going to grow fast, are you sure you're going to be able to handle it? So there's a lot of research out there that shows the differences in how um, men and women are even asked questions differently when it comes down to funding. So I think that's something that needs to be addressed. And additionally, there needs to be more female representation at these investment firms. Like when I talk to an investment firm and they have no women on their team, or they have one woman on their team who's an administrative assistant, that's really not the partner that I would be looking for, because I want to see minorities on the team. I want to see underrepresented classes and women.
So what, yeah, we've made a point, I think too, to your point, we've made a point to invite female founders. We have 2 shows. This is our Tech Founder Show and our SaaS Founder Show. And, we've heard so much of that challenge, but there's people like you that are out there blazing the trail, that are speaking up, that are, doing amazing things. So I commend you for that, despite those challenges and those barriers that are still there. So that says a lot about you and other women founders that are pushing ahead and have all the ambition and keep marching forward. So
yeah, and we have to do it. Sometimes that makes us not people's favorite, but I mean, we have no choice.
Yeah, you're blazing trails. So it's impressive work. I would love to hear just a bit about the team. I know there's you and your co-founder. Anybody else that's involved?
Yeah, we have a small team and we're really close knit. I'm proud to share also that all our FTEs identify as female, minority, immigrant, or a combination of the above. So our team is really diverse and we're very, very proud of that. And we also work with interns. So if anybody's ever looking for internships, to reach out to us. And so it's a few of us, some interns, and a dedicated team of mentors and advisors.
What is how would you describe the culture within the business?
So I don't know that we describe our culture in terms. I know for branding we're supposed to, but we really haven't. But we just try to be a really open team, a really caring team. Like right now, um, we're just like focusing on making sure everybody is okay because of everything that's going on around the world. My co-founder is from India, so his family is back in India, and the last week has been really challenging because basically every single day somebody he knows has passed away from COVID in India. So we try to be a really supportive team, a really caring team, a really open team. Like my team can tell me anything at any time and there's never any judgment. And that's one reason we like working with interns as well, because we like them to work in an environment that's really positive. So they see that and they see how they should be treated before they go out into the work world and sometimes work in situations that aren't that.
So how do you look for candidates, given that you are, mission focused business? I would think that that's really important, that people buy into the change that you guys are trying to deliver. And like you said, something that you and your co-founder are really passionate about. How does that come up in the process?
That's actually key. I'm less concerned about degrees. I'm not concerned at all about fancy schools. Like, I am concerned and looking for people who aren't thinking about making a change, but who are making a change. And people who are committed to living a more sustainable lifestyle. And people, you can just tell sometimes, like, people have a spirit of disruption within them. And that's what we're looking for. It doesn't have to be loud and proud and screaming from the rooftops, but you can usually tell that this person is going to do something.
I love that, the way you stated it, a spirit of disruption. What how do you identify that? Because I think that's a great quality for someone to have. I take it as someone that, looks at things differently and out of the box. And how do you sense that when you're talking to someone?
Well, I had a former intern reach out to me late or a couple of weeks ago and was like, "Hey, I imagine you're doing Mother's Day shopping soon." And I was at Target and I saw these reusable Ziploc bags and I thought of them and thought like this would be something you would get your mom. And I just texted her back. I was like, "Yes, you know me so well. Those are in my Target cart at the moment."
That's
So
fun.
like you feel this within people that they want to make this change or they bring up topics. Like I saw like a meme one day that was like so and so been reusing the same Ziploc bag since 1989, and I was like, yes, those are our kind of people.
That's cool. Um, we touched on the pandemic a little bit just a moment ago, and obviously a hard topic to avoid. How did that impact you personally and your business, over the last year plus now?
It was brutal. It was a really, really dark time. Um, so at the beginning of the pandemic, I think, before it even happened, I was the person who was not worried about it. I thought, well, they're always telling us on the news that the hurricane is coming and we're all going to die, and we didn't. So at first, I thought maybe it's just the news going a little crazy. But then, like, I started to realize how serious it was, and things started shutting down. And I kind of blamed myself for a little bit that I didn't see this coming. For some reason, I thought I was supposed to see this pandemic coming and save the world. But so it was a lot. It was really difficult at the beginning. And Detroit, where we're at, was one of the hardest hit areas in the world first. So it was just like a mini New York City. So that was hard to see people dying and things just shut down. And like we were shut down for a very long time because manufacturing was not permitted. Manufacturing companies were not permitted to be open in our state. So we were shut down, which leaves a lot of time on your hand to think about everything you've been busting your ass for and working your whole life for as just a sinking ship that's out of your control. So that was really, really, really hard. But I think out of that, I learned a lesson. Now I'm not afraid of anything, anything at all, because I've gotten so tough in the last, what is it, like 14, 15 months now. So I'm not afraid of anything. And it also gave me some free time to start thinking about Loopy. I've wanted to start this home and housewares line for years because I see so much plastic waste all over the place. So that gave me the time to start thinking about that product line and to really get it off the ground.
So is that where that came from? The new product line that you're working on, was that born out of the slowdown from the last year?
Not really. A couple years ago, I was out wading in the ocean in California and thinking, like, I just found chunks of plastic on the beach. Like, this is not cool. And there's just like crap everywhere. And I was like, I just need some sign to do something about this. And then all of a sudden, a sea lion swam up to me while I was out in the ocean. And I ran screaming shark all the way up the beach because I thought it was a shark. But once I realized it was a sea lion, I was like, okay, that's the sign I need to do something about this. So then I started thinking about the products that I see that are like the most detrimental or cannot be recycled. Because even though something has a recycle symbol on it, that in the United States does not mean at all that it's actually going to get recycled, which I think is one of the greatest travesties that we have in this country. So I thought of some products that we could make with more sustainable materials. And I've seen people marketing glass as really sustainable lately, which just irritates me to no end because it takes so much energy to make glass that it's really not that sustainable. So that's why I went for the wine glasses and the whiskey tumblers that I started. Because even though they do have some plastic in them, they're made with the plant waste and they have less of a carbon footprint than glass. So it's a product that's made to, illustrate things to people.
Yeah. So what's on the horizon for Pivot Materials for the next 12 months, let's say?
Complete world domination. That's just always my plan. So we're keeping moving with our customers. A lot of them are coming back online now and getting back to work. So we're starting back slowly. I'm also making sure that our team is not as super exhausted. Like some of my friends that work for other companies, they're just so exhausted right now because the expectations for them are just insane from working from home and dealing with family and the pressures that everyone has going on. So I'm really trying to balance things and make it an easy transition back to doing things for our team.
Speaking of balance, we like to ask our founders about kind of their work-life balance or work-life integration. Obviously, when you're a founder of a company, it's a huge part of your life. How do you find that create harmony with the work-life side of things? And what do you do for fun and to decompress and all that kind of stuff?
I'm the worst person ever to talk to about work-life balance. I have none.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I've been trying to exercise more during the pandemic because I've just felt like so much stress in my body. So I'm working towards running again. Before the business, I used to run a lot, like sometimes 9 miles a day. So now I'm trying to understand how to virtually buy running shoes. And once I figure that out, I will start running again. And then I'm just trying to, I've started appreciating my parents a lot more during the pandemic. I actually moved an hour away from where I was living so I could live closer to them and take care of them and my grandma more. So I think, that's been an important part of the pandemic. I taught them how to do video calls, which some days I regret, but we've been able to video chat a lot more and just spend time together like that and spend a lot more time with my husband. We haven't killed each other yet, so I think, our relationship's pretty solid.
That's good.
And we're actually celebrating our 10-year anniversary in a couple of weeks. So.
Congrats. That's fantastic. Yeah, I would say, just to add on to that, I do think that something that I've seen for a lot of people, a little bit of a silver lining of, this challenging, year that we've spent here, is that it seems like a lot of people have had a chance in certain ways to slow down, in certain ways to spend more time with family and, people close to them. We can't go out a whole lot and see people elsewhere, but I have seen that in a lot of ways. So that's good to hear that you've been able to do some of that. So that's fantastic. Before we wrap up here, Kylee, I would love to hear, as far as, this is our Tech Founder show. What is there a particular, this is open, this doesn't have to be anything that you're particularly dealing with in your business or industry. Is there a technology that's out there that you're really excited to see, kind of come to fruition and kind of hit critical mass, and that's going to change the way we live or work?
Oh my gosh. So me being as nerdy as I am, I could say 95 things right now.
Let's do the top three then. We usually ask for one, but I would love to hear your top three.
Okay. So I think cryptocurrency is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I think during the pandemic, a lot of people have avoided touching cash.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be one thing for sure. Blockchain technology, I'm obsessed with. I think it can be useful all over the place. It can make logistics a lot better. So whoever is going to disrupt the logistics industry, please give me something go to the blockchain. And I'm also excited about how it can prevent illness from food, either from food contamination or food getting not at the optimal temperatures. And also for people like me with food allergies, I think there's a lot there that it can do. And my third one I'm going to say is biomimicry, which is really not a technology, but I'm obsessed with bees and how they work with biomimicry and the number 3 in nature. And I think if people listened to nature a lot more, then a lot of our issues with technology would be solved. I'm convinced that everything we need is already on this earth. We don't have to make it. We just have to figure out how to use it.
Very interesting. Very cool. Well, Kylee, for those of our viewers that want to learn more about you, more about Pivot Materials, and even your new project, tell us where we can find more.
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Kylee Guenther. There's like 3 of us in the United States, so odds are you'll find me. And then Pivot and Loopy are both on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. So you can find us at pivot.eco.eco or at loopyproducts.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been fascinating. I appreciate you taking the time to spend with our audience here on the show, and I'm excited for what you guys have ahead of you in the future. So really cool stuff you're doing, Kylee. I commend you on it. And again, thank you for your time here with us.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. We will see you next time. Take care.